You're listening to Calendar of Stolen Days on Soul Sound. Chapter 3: Chain of Custody. The taste hit first. Metallic ink. Cold copper flooding her mouth like she'd swallowed a filing cabinet whole. Celia's hands froze above the paper stack, fingers white-knuckled around routing forms that felt too thin, too fragile. Not now. Not here. The regret imprint flared, a foreign grief trying to file itself under her ribs, demanding attention it hadn't earned. Someone else's loss, someone else's shame, attached to October 3rd like a sealed warrant she never signed. Her skin felt too tight at the wrists. Nausea came in a hard wave, cold and patient, pressing against her sternum like a hand. Breathe. Celia forced her fingers to straighten the file edges, the motion mechanical, deliberate. She named 3 concrete actions in her head, the anchor ritual keeping her tethered. Breathe. Align the stamps. Keep her eyes on the routing codes. The imprint dragged at her, hungry for stage time, desperate to pull her into someone else's panic. She refused it. Straighten, stamp, breathe. The metallic taste receded, not gone, just retreating to the back of her throat like a threat. The office hummed around her, keyboards clicking, stamps thudding. No one knew. No one could know. The next shadow at her desk was not a coworker. Damon Sens set a slim folder down like it was harmless, like internal affairs ever carried anything harmless. He didn't ask to sit. He didn't wait for invitation. He made the space behave as if permission had already been granted. The papers near his hand felt heavier, not metaphor. The office itself seemed to recognize his badge as another kind of vault, the kind that locked people inside.
Chain of custody means paper trail. So where's the original?
Celia's jaw tightened. Not fear, recognition. She'd heard that tone before, the voice of someone who already knew the answer.
Lucan Vey signed a custody acknowledgement. Orrin Hale's affidavit. Now the original's missing from the vault registry.
He paused, let the silence work. Celia felt the imprint spike, foreign panic that wasn't hers, held behind clenched teeth. She kept her voice steady, bright steel, testimony mode.
I witnessed the signature on September 14th. I copied the routing codes at 9:47 that morning. The original was sealed in a consortium vault by 10:15. The rest is vault jurisdiction, not missing date office. Not mine to track.
And your protected witness advocate, the one whose routing suddenly looks very clean, almost as if someone with vault access sanitized the trail?
The air shifted, managerial authority entering like weather. Lena Hart stepped into the space, her office voice settling over the desk like a lid on a box, the kind of voice that made people stop talking mid-sentence. Celia felt the institutional weight before the director spoke, the director's stamp landing on the conversation, the ink darker than normal for one blink, as if the building itself was trying to overwrite her record.
The surge is becoming a resource risk. I'm looking at misallocation of staff hours, irregular audit trails, and now an internal affairs inquiry that makes this office look compromised. I need you to route this case back to intake, proper channels, before it damages more than your career.
Translation: drop the case, kill the investigation, let Orrin Hale vanish into the 1-week deadline. Celia felt the imprint surge again, that foreign grief responding to institutional pressure. She clamped her jaw tighter, made her breathing even.
The chain of custody note is signed and sealed. The missing file is documented in my morning report. A repeat victim pattern exists with physical evidence. If I route this back to intake, the 1-week deadline erases Orrin Hale. Consortium-grade ink erases the connection to the vault system, and the next victim lines up without anyone watching.
Lena's eyes narrowed, not anger, assessment, recalculating whether Celia was a problem to be managed or a liability to be cut loose.
You're describing misallocation, not justice. You're describing obsession.
Is that an order, Director, to abandon an active audit with physical evidence and a signed custody chain?
The silence that followed felt stamped, sealed, a moment where all three of them understood exactly what was happening. The investigation being buried under procedure, the truth being locked in a vault marked inconvenient. Then Lucan Vey stood in the doorway, too calm, motion expensive, every movement deliberate. He spoke one line of jurisdictional language that forced Damon to look at him instead of Celia.
The custody note is under vault seal. Internal Affairs lacks standing to review consortium records without a judicial warrant.
He didn't raise his voice, didn't step closer, just named the law that protected what they were trying to take, made it clear that taking it would require more paperwork than they were ready to file. While their attention shifted, Celia slid her hand-copied codes into a sealed audit sleeve, the motion small, efficient, hidden. The paper edges darkened as the sleeve sealed, evidence locking itself away from the room's politics. The air tightened, three people watching each other without blinking. Office authority, internal affairs, vault authority. Damon broke it.
Then I'll open an investigation. Official. Documented.
He stood, picked up his harmless folder, left the threat breathing on her desk like something alive, something that would grow while she wasn't looking. The claim paperwork felt unstable in Celia's hand, like the ink couldn't decide who it belonged to, couldn't settle into the fibers, couldn't commit to being evidence. Wind off the water made everything sharper, colder. The dock stretched before them, cranes looming like skeletal fingers, workers moving with practiced efficiency. Cade Rowan moved through the dock workers like a blade through cloth, positioning bodies, creating space, making barriers out of people who didn't know they were barriers. Celia walked the corridor he opened, felt the imprint shifting with her movement, that foreign grief responding to the salt air. It wanted her attention, wanted her to stop, to feel. She refused. Then she saw Orrin Hale, 32 but carrying 45 in the eyes, the kind of age that came from losing time you couldn't get back. Too alert, too aware of every exit. He spotted her, swallowed hard.
I didn't file in time. Last week. I was ashamed, so I didn't file. I thought if I didn't say it out loud, maybe it wouldn't be real.
The imprint flared. Celia felt it like a bruise touched. Heat behind her eyes, ink metal coating her throat, a foreign memory trying to surface without images, only emotion. She clamped her jaw, made her breathing even, kept her voice steady despite the wave of not her grief threatening to drown her.
State the stolen day rule, in your own words.
3 actions. You have to say what you'd have done. 3 specific things, otherwise they don't believe you. They say you're distressed, just confused, just imagining.
And the next target date? When do they come for you again?
11/14. November 14th. They always take it 2 weeks after I miss a filing. Like they know. Like they can smell the shame on me.
Back. Everyone back. Now.
The dock hands moved. Space opened. Lucan wasn't looking at Orrin, wasn't looking at the crowd. He held a dock manifest, testing the paper's weight, watching how it behaved like a doctor reading a pulse. The paper went heavy in his hand, then light, resisting being anchored, refusing to settle.
The thief isn't here for him. Not today.
Celia watched him track the pattern. Not scent, not footsteps. Record behavior, what wouldn't hold weight, a stamp missing its bite, ink too fresh, a signature trying to fade.
Calendar resistance means you can't take the same date twice, so they take a different one, faster.
The words changed tactics immediately. Oren's November 14th wasn't safe because September 14th was taken. The thief couldn't have the same square twice. So they accelerated, moved up the timeline. Too late. Movement at the edge of the crowd. Too smooth, too practiced, a figure in dockworker clothes that fit too well. The air tore like paper. Lucan snapped.
Nobody moves!
The command froze the dock. Bodies locked mid-step, caught in the sudden stillness. The thief slipped through the frozen moment, a fragment torn away, ink light flickering on a cargo tag like a spark that shouldn't exist. Then silence. The crowd breathed again, movement resumed, confused, uncertain what had happened. But Celia saw. She saw the figure vanishing, saw the cargo tag smoking with consortium-grade ink. Lucan pulled her aside with one hand, his grip precise, controlled, professional. But his voice.
You saw.
Memory slippage, mid-motion. You lost 3 seconds between the shout and now. I need you to stay present. Name 3 things you see.
Water. Rust. Your hands.
He was lying. She could see it. The way his eyes unfocused for half a heartbeat, the way his fingers twitched like counting something invisible. But he was trying to stay anchored, trying to be functional despite the decay eating his edges. They had stopped the theft, but not the thief. The booth sealed around them like a stamped envelope, the latch clicking with the weight of finality, of ward and binding. The air shifted, pressurized, contained. No ambient audience, no shadows to hide in. Soren Dax slid a single page across the surface between them like it was nothing. Like paper couldn't be a weapon, couldn't end careers with a few well-placed lines of ink. The index page felt cold, heavy, edges darkening as if it knew it was contraband.
A slice from the vault inventory. Very fresh, very dangerous. It will hurt someone. Probably someone who deserves it.
What does the slice index? Be specific.
Dates, victims, buyers. The whole supply chain, if you know how to read it.
This is an evidence handoff, not a flirtation, not a negotiation. Speak plainly or leave.
Soren smiled, the expression not reaching his eyes, calculating whether the threat was worth testing. He decided it wasn't, circling away, hands raised in mock surrender. Celia turned to the only person who could unlock the rest, the only person who knew what the numbers meant, how to turn inventory into indictment. Lucan produced a ledger key, small, plain, the kind of object that didn't look like power until you understood what doors it opened. He set it in her palm. He did not touch her to do it. The restraint was deliberate, a boundary maintained even in surrender. The moment the key changed hands, the air tightened, paper edges darkened, as if the vault was recording consent in a new form, witnessing this transfer of authority. Celia felt the key's cold bite against her skin. Pressure changed behind her eyes. The regret imprint rippled like a bruise turning over, foreign grief responding to institutional weight. He was giving her a way to destroy him, access to his feeding records, his anchoring history. Every time he'd stabilized, every time he'd slipped, laid bare for her audit. She kept her face still, accepted it like evidence, not a gift, like a warrant, not a gesture.
If you're going to bind me to you, do it with a clause that protects me, not with your teeth.
Lucan's throat moved. One clipped reset. The physical manifestation of hunger and shame held behind precision.
I want this to be law, not teeth.
He accepted it out loud. The boundary became binding, contract language wrapping around them like the booth's sealed air, like the vault's own witnessing. Celia turned to the inventory lists, ran her finger down entries matching the surge patterns, routing codes, timestamps, anchoring marks, the fingerprints of institutional theft. Cross-referencing, auditing. The lines felt like raised ink under her fingertip. Some entries seemed to resist being looked at, sliding away from her focus like they didn't want to be found. Then one line item broke reality. Celia read it twice without moving. The numbers refused to change. Lucan went still in a way that read like terror. She'd never seen him afraid before. Controlled, yes. Cautious, always. But never afraid. Soren watched from the corner, curious to see who would bleed first. Celia broke the silence, read the entry out loud like it was a charge, like a verdict, like the end of the world delivered in 3 words and 2 numbers.
Celia Wynn, 11:14. Vaulted.
Download Soul Sound on App Store to listen to the calendar of stolen days.